When Genghis Khan united the Mongol tribes, he faced one impossible problem: how to transform shepherds and hunters into the most lethal fighting force the world had ever seen. While traditional armies elevated leaders based on nobility and birthright, Khan devised something revolutionary. In this documentary, we reveal Khan's ingenious solution: a strict meritocracy where skill determined rank. Imagine, a skilled archer from humble origins could command nobles in battle. This system created an unbeatable military machine that conquered the largest land empire in history. From their grueling training where warriors learned to shoot arrows while galloping at full speed, you're about to witness how nomadic people became history's most feared warriors. Before Genghis Khan's rise to power, the Mongolian steppes were a fractured landscape of competing tribes locked in constant warfare. More than 40 separate tribal groups roamed these vast grasslands, each with its own leader and territory. Blood feuds between clans stretched back generations, creating an environment where cooperation seemed impossible. The practical challenge facing any would-be unifier was enormous. Warriors pledged loyalty to their clan chiefs through blood ties and tradition. These tribal identities ran so deep that temporary alliances formed and dissolved rapidly, with yesterday's allies becoming today's enemies over disputes about grazing rights or perceived insults. When Genghis Khan, then known as Temujin, began his rise to power around 1180, he recognized that tribal divisions presented the greatest obstacle to creating an effective fighting force. His solution was revolutionary: a complete reorganization of Mongol society through the decimal system. Under this structure, warriors were assigned units of 10 Arban, 100 Jagan, 1,000 Mingan, and 10,000 Tumen, regardless of tribal origin. Much like modern sports teams build cohesion among players from different backgrounds, these military units forged new bonds that transcended old hatreds. Khan deliberately mixed members of different tribes within these units, placing former enemies shoulder to shoulder in the same formations. A warrior's primary loyalty shifted to his Arban, the 10 men with whom he would eat, sleep, and fight. These artificial groupings created real bonds, with warriors identifying more strongly with their military unit than with their birth tribe. This transition wasn't peaceful. Khan systematically dismantled the traditional tribal aristocracy, eliminating power centers that challenged his authority. The story of Jeb exemplifies Khan's revolutionary approach. After this enemy soldier shot Khan's horse in battle, rather than executing him, Khan recognized his extraordinary skill and elevated him to become one of his most trusted generals. A Chinese observer noted, "The Mongol leader cares nothing for noble birth, only their loyalty and ability in battle." This meritocratic approach was radical in the 13th century when most armies operated on hereditary privilege. By executing resistant tribal aristocrats while promoting common herdsmen based on abilities, Khan generated intense loyalty among those who served him well. This restructuring represented the most comprehensive social reorganization for military purposes in the medieval world. No contemporary ruler in China, the Middle East, or Europe attempted such a complete break with traditional power structures. By replacing tribal identities with a system based on merit and shared military service, Khan created a unified fighting force. The results were dramatic. Warriors from across the steppes fought as a cohesive Mongol army rather than as allied tribes. This new identity maintained discipline across campaigns spanning thousands of miles. With the loyalty problem solved, Khan faced his next challenge: transforming these united warriors into the most skilled fighters on Earth. While European knights trained for months before battle and Chinese soldiers drilled in formation, the Mongols approached warfare differently. Their training wasn't a separate activity, it was integrated into daily life from the earliest years. This fundamental difference produced warriors with skills that seemed impossible to their enemies. Mongol military preparation began almost from birth. Children as young as 3 years old were placed on horseback, creating a lifelong bond that transformed boys into riders who could sleep in the saddle during long campaigns. By fighting age, a Mongol youth had accumulated more riding hours than foreign cavalry officers would in their entire careers. Persian and Chinese sources describe warriors who maintained combat effectiveness after journeys that would devastate other armies. The training system evolved as boys grew. Children started by hunting small animals like marmots, learning to track and kill efficiently. They graduated to pursuing wolves and wild horses. These hunts taught skills directly applicable to warfare, tracking, silent movement, and group coordination. This practical education created warriors who navigated vast territories without maps and anticipated enemy movements from subtle environmental signs. Mongol physical conditioning produced remarkable results. Warriors routinely covered 100 miles daily, a distance requiring multiple days for medieval armies. When supplies dwindled, they sustained themselves by drinking blood from small cuts in their horses' veins, enabling campaigns across terrain others deemed impassable. Archery began in early childhood with appropriately sized bows. One Chinese account describes a 7-year-old hunter bringing down a deer at 50 paces after stalking it through dense forest, skills that would later translate to battlefield precision. The Mongol composite bow, made from wood, horn, and sinew, could penetrate armor beyond 200 yards. Adult warriors fired 6 aimed arrows per minute while galloping, hitting targets that stationary archers struggled to strike at half the distance. Psychological hardening completed their preparation. Young Mongols endured temperatures from -40 degrees Fahrenheit winter storms to 100 degrees Fahrenheit summer heat. This adaptation allowed campaigns in seasons when enemies sought shelter. Warriors developed pain tolerance that kept them fighting through injuries that would incapacitate others. Archaeological evidence confirms this system. Excavated practice arrows with blunted tips, specialized combat saddles, and child-sized bows indicate training's early start. These artifacts support historical accounts of Mongol methods. The results were extraordinary. Chinese chronicles document warriors hitting targets while hanging from galloping horses. Middle East observers recorded Mongols accurately shooting arrows backward during full-speed retreats. The Parthian shot, perfected beyond precedent. This training system, beginning in childhood and continuing throughout life, produced warriors uniquely adapted to mobile warfare that defined Genghis Khan's military strategy. With these skills firmly established, the Khan implemented revolutionary tactics that transformed warfare across continents. The conventional armies of the 13th century relied heavily on fixed formations that prioritized strength over mobility. European knights fought in tight units, while Chinese and Middle Eastern forces depended on rigid battle lines with infantry at the center. These traditional armies moved as unified blocks, their success dependent on maintaining formation. The Mongols, however, approached warfare with a revolutionary mindset that emphasized flexibility and coordination across vast distances, like a flowing river against stone walls. Despite facing numerically superior forces, Mongol warriors consistently secured victories through mobility and coordination. At the Battle of the Kalka River in 1223, 20,000 Mongols defeated a combined Rus and Cuman forces twice their size through precise control of widely separated units operating as a cohesive force. Central to this battlefield dominance was a sophisticated communication system enabling complex maneuvers across great distances. Imagine a Mongol commander spotting a weakness in the enemy's right flank. With a series of flag signals and horn calls, he could direct units positioned miles away to sweep in precisely when the main force engaged from the front. This network allowed real-time adaptation to changing battlefield conditions. Commanders could coordinate synchronized attacks from multiple directions, creating the impression of a much larger force and overwhelming opponents. The feigned retreat became the Mongol signature tactic. Picture Mongol horsemen charging toward enemy lines, exchanging arrow volleys, then suddenly turning their horses and appearing to flee in disorder. As enemy knights and infantry broke formation to pursue what looked like easy victory, the Mongols would lead them into a deadly trap. At a signal, hidden reserve forces would emerge from concealed positions, surrounding the disorganized pursuers in a devastating counterattack. European knights, bound by chivalric codes, found this tactic particularly difficult to counter. For siege warfare, the Mongols combined psychological tactics with engineering techniques adopted from conquered peoples. They deployed Chinese-style trebuchets capable of hurling massive stones alongside Persian undermining techniques. Rather than relying on brute force, they often used terror and intelligence to break enemy resolve before the walls themselves. Before campaigns began, extensive networks of spies and scouts collected detailed information about enemy territories. Genghis Khan's generals knew fortification layouts, road conditions, and political tensions within opposing realms before launching attacks. This comprehensive intelligence allowed them to develop strategies tailored to each opponent. The psychological impact of Mongol tactics extended beyond the battlefield. Cities often surrendered rather than face what seemed inevitable destruction. This reputation acted as a force multiplier, allowing control of vast territories with small garrisons. The true genius of Khan's system was its adaptability across different terrains and enemies. Whether facing Chinese infantry, European knights, or Middle Eastern forces, the Mongols adjusted their tactics to exploit specific weaknesses while maintaining their core principles of mobility, coordination, and intelligence. Genghis Khan's greatest achievement wasn't the conquered territory, but the revolutionary military system he created. By restructuring tribal loyalties and implementing merit-based leadership, he transformed warring nomads into history's most effective fighting force. His organizational innovations overcame the seemingly impossible challenge of tribal disunity. This military machine proved that skill-based promotion and adaptability could achieve more than rigid hierarchies. The Mongols' combat effectiveness became the foundation of their unprecedented success. Khan's military innovations live on today. Modern armies emphasize mobility, meritocracy, and adaptability, the same principles that defined Mongol dominance 8 centuries ago. How might these ancient strategies continue shaping tomorrow's military doctrine?